Session 1. The Professional Data Analyst Role and Analytics Foundations. You're learning this completely wrong. Not because you're lazy, not because you're not smart, but because most people start in the wrong place. They start with tools, Excel, SQL, dashboards. They focus on clicking buttons, memorizing formulas, or building visuals, assuming that mastering tools is the key to being a good analyst. And yet, many never stop to ask the more important question: why any of it actually matters. What comes next will shift how you see this, a fundamental shift in how you think about data analytics. It's not about formulas or charts. It's about a way of thinking that allows you to turn raw information into meaningful decisions. You might be surprised at the difference it makes when you stop asking, "What tool should I learn next?" and start asking, "What decision am I trying to improve?" Analytics today is everywhere. It shapes critical choices in hiring, pricing strategies, healthcare operations, retail planning, and financial management. The difference between a tool user and a professional analyst isn't skill with software, it's understanding purpose. The people who understand the role, who can connect data to real decisions, are the ones who earn trust, get promoted, and whose insights are actually acted upon. Moving past theory to see how analytics drives real business outcomes. The data analyst role in U.S. organizations plus core concept. Most beginners think a data analyst's job is simple: look at data, make charts, share results. At first glance, that description seems accurate. It sounds straightforward, tangible, and even manageable. But that understanding is incomplete. In U.S. organizations, a data analyst exists for one clear reason: to help someone make a better decision. Executives don't wake up wanting dashboards. Managers don't care about pivot tables or flashy charts. They care about outcomes, answers to critical business questions. Should we hire more people? Which product should we push next month? Where are we losing money? The analyst sits at the center of that complexity. On one side are messy, often ambiguous business questions. On the other side is messy, unstructured data. The job of the analyst is translation. A professional analyst transforms vague or confusing questions into clear, actionable analysis. They turn raw data into insight, and insight into action that drives real business impact. This is how professionals think. They don't ask, "Which chart should I build next?" They ask, "Which decision is currently blocked, and how can my work help unblock it?" That single mindset shift changes everything. Once the decision is clear, the tools stop feeling confusing. Excel becomes logic. SQL becomes questions. Dashboards become compelling stories. If this perspective feels different from what you've been taught, you're not alone. Most people never reach this part of thinking like an analyst. Be honest, can you relate? Types of business analytics plus story illustration. Not all analytics does the same job, and this is where many people get stuck without even realizing why. In U.S. companies, there are 4 main types of business analytics that professionals use every day. Descriptive analytics tells you what happened in the past, providing a clear snapshot of events and outcomes. Diagnostic analytics goes one step further, explaining why those events occurred and uncovering the factors that influenced results. Predictive analytics uses historical data and patterns to anticipate what might happen next, giving teams the ability to plan ahead. Finally, prescriptive analytics suggests actionable steps, guiding decisions on what should be done to achieve desired outcomes. Here's the problem: most analysts never move beyond the first 2 types. They report numbers, explain trends, and then wonder why their work doesn't drive action. For example, a retail analyst once built weekly sales reports that were technically perfect: clean charts, accurate data, formatted well. Leadership skimmed the reports and moved on, making no operational changes. What changed wasn't the data, it was the question being asked. Instead of what happened last week, the analyst reframed it as, "Which stores need immediate attention right now?" Same data set, different approach. Suddenly, managers knew where to focus, promotions were adjusted, and inventory decisions improved. This illustrates the difference between simply reporting information and truly influencing business outcomes. Analytics only becomes powerful when it points toward a decision, and that impact comes from knowing which type of analytics you are applying in each situation. End-to-end analytics workflow plus quick reflective exercise. Let's zoom out and look at how analytics really flows, not in theory, but in practice. The real workflow of effective analytics follows a clear sequence: question, data, preparation, analysis, insight, decision, and action. Each step builds on the previous one. If even a single step is missed, the entire process can break down. This is one of the main reasons people feel overwhelmed when working with data. Many jump straight into analysis, trying to find patterns without a clear purpose. Some skip even further ahead, building dashboards before understanding the problem they are meant to solve. Here's a quick check. Pause for a second and think about the last time you opened Excel, SQL, or another analytics tool. Did you know the decision you were supporting, or were you just exploring the data without a clear goal? That question matters more than you might realize. Analytics without direction feels random, disconnected, and frustrating. With a defined direction, however, the same work becomes clear, purposeful, and manageable. Beginners often feel slow not because they lack skill, but because they skip essential steps or fail to structure their workflow properly. Once you understand and follow the full workflow, everything speeds up. You stop guessing, stop restarting, and stop wasting effort on unnecessary tasks. Each step becomes a natural part of the process. Analysis starts to feel logical. Dashboards start to tell a story. And gradually, confidence shows up quietly, almost unnoticed. You realize that analytics isn't about working harder, it's about working in the right sequence, with clarity and purpose guiding every move. Ethics and professional responsibility plus real-world example. Let's ground this in a real US example. A healthcare system wanted to reduce patient wait times, a critical issue affecting both patient satisfaction and operational efficiency. The analytics team followed the common approach. They built dashboards filled with metrics and charts. Leadership loved the visuals, praised the clarity, and assumed progress would follow. Yet, wait times didn't improve. Why? The underlying data was incomplete and misaligned. Appointment logs failed to capture cancellations, and staffing data didn't reflect real-time schedules. The analyst recognized that more dashboards alone wouldn't solve the problem. They paused, stepped back, and reframed the core question. Instead of asking, "What do wait times look like?" they asked, "What causes delays that we can actually influence or control?" Once the data was carefully cleaned, integrated, and validated, the insights changed dramatically. Staffing schedules were adjusted, bottlenecks in key processes were addressed, and patient satisfaction improved measurably. The tools and software hadn't changed, the difference came from a shift in thinking and responsibility. This is where ethics and professional judgment matter. Analytics doesn't just show numbers, it affects real lives across healthcare, lending, hiring, and pricing. Professional analysts don't just ask, "Is this accurate?" They ask, "Is this fair? Is it responsible? Would I trust this decision?" That mindset earns trust, and trust is what makes analytics truly matter. Closing summary plus practical next steps. This can be grounded in a real US example. A healthcare system aimed to reduce patient wait times, a critical issue impacting patient satisfaction and operational efficiency. The analytics team produced dashboards packed with metrics and charts. Leadership loved the visuals, praised the clarity, and assumed progress would follow. Yet, wait times didn't improve. Why? The underlying data was incomplete and misaligned. Appointment logs failed to capture cancellations, and staffing data didn't reflect real-time schedules. The analyst recognized that more dashboards alone wouldn't solve the problem. They paused, stepped back, and reframed the core question. Instead of asking, what do wait times look like? They asked, what causes delays that we can actually influence or control? Once the data was carefully cleaned, integrated, and validated, the insights changed dramatically. Staffing schedules were adjusted, bottlenecks in key processes were addressed, and patient satisfaction improved measurably. The tools and software hadn't changed, the difference came from a shift in thinking and responsibility. This is where ethics and professional judgment matter. Analytics doesn't just show numbers, it affects real lives across healthcare, lending, hiring, and pricing. Professional analysts don't just ask, is this accurate? They ask, is this fair? Is it responsible? Would I trust this decision? That mindset earns trust, and trust is what makes analytics truly matter.